Have a hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another channel map. We're talking March 2022. It's number 3. Can you believe it? And insert 3 here. Let's talk about February. First things first. Things have gotten weird globally. I hope everybody who's watching this is safe. But in the month of February, things did continue chugging along. We've been working on Onatar and Antikythera more so behind the scenes than publicly because of the fact that we just find it a little bit easier to maintain the flow, and particularly when we only have maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, as has happened for me personally in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, odds are you're not going to be streaming for that duration of time. You really want to set aside at least a 2-hour minimum chunk, in my personal opinion, if you're going to do a public dev stream. But those streams have been scattered, occasional, and we've been working towards an application to IndieFund and potentially other places if IndieFund doesn't accept us, or maybe, further down the line, we need to go looking for secondary funding or something like that. Although, we'll have more information about that when we actually hear back from them. But that's the current goal, is secure a little bit of funding, have enough of content to showcase to make it obvious that we're within 8 months to a year maximum of delivering on a title that can be purchased, and that way it makes it a lot more obvious. So I encourage you guys, if you're interested in this sort of thing, to check out IndieFund's website. I'll throw a link in the description, and it's actually pretty favorable towards what we're actually doing, and I'm pretty pleased with that idea. So that's why we are considering it currently, and that's why we're working towards it, is because it seems like a reasonable alternative to just slowly chugging along with no funding. It seems like we could really make some nice progress in a much more expedited manner if we were to secure that kind of funding, because then obviously we wouldn't have to deal with any other stresses financially or whatever, and keep the roof over our heads without having to go out into the world as much, at least for the hours that we've had to. Anyway, that all aside, some specific features will be denoted in an update video that will be going live before the end of this week over on the No Frauds Club channel, so you can check that out. Obviously, we've continued the conversations on that channel. We picked those back up and released 2 of them in the month of February. I think we're on pace to release 1 every week from the foreseeable future, so we'll see how long that streak continues. But obviously, if you're interested in that sort of content, you can check that out. We're also on Spotify now. If you search Clubhouse Conversations or the No Frauds Club with a hyphen between no and frauds, you'll find us. And so that's kind of cool. What else? We got access to the JAI beta, Jonathan Blow's language. We're vetting it for our needs. Seems pretty likely that we'll want to use a lot of the features that it has. Current biggest issue is figuring out how to set up a debugging environment, and Vik needs to really learn the ins and outs of the workflow in general. There is no IDE. That's going to be a challenge. We'll figure it out as time goes on, but in the month of March, I imagine we'll have made a decision as to, whether or not we're porting over to it. Again, leaning towards yes right now. It's just a matter of logistically figuring that out. And yeah, like I said earlier, you want more specifics on that, stay tuned for the video on the other channel. What else did we do? On this channel, we finished the Divinity nonsense. Thank God that's over. That was a real drag towards the end. But one of the things that my brother and I did enjoy doing was just doing those streams in general. So we'll probably do occasional ones of those. I doubt they'll be publicated, but if you happen to be around and you want to see 2 guys horsing around, there you go. You got something to watch. We did also resume the more conventional LPs. Braid, which has not been publicated as of the time of recording this video, was done in 2 streams. That's cool. Just resuming it in general. And I'm kicking off the Witness after this video is being recorded, so that's cool as well. What else? Obviously, there was plenty of progress in the production side of things. We can get into our plans for March. So Antikythera and Onatar obviously are the primary focuses. Right now, Vik has started kicking off the month of March with a heavy amount of work on the networking side of things. I have continued to work on tech trees. We will, again, have a more complete understanding of where we stand in a video on the No Frauds Club channel. However, right now, I would say, generally speaking, those videos, like by the time they go up, by the time I finish editing them and putting them all together, it's at least a day or two later from the point where I scripted it, voiceovered it, recorded it, edited it, all that stuff. Or at least the editing phase itself usually takes at least a day or two, sometimes longer, depending on my work schedule for other things. So, by the time it goes up, maybe there will be more stuff. The easiest way to get immediate updates is on the Discord server, obviously. We post about that. The things that I can say is, obviously, in the month of February early on, I was pretty confident that we would have either Map Craps or Fraud Nights or both before the end of the month. That didn't end up facilitating. However, I do want to say that primarily some of that stuff was out of our hands and not necessarily the result of like poor planning or whatever. It was like a combination of world events stopping either of us, Veek or myself, from being able to focus very heavily on anything consistently, especially towards the last sort of tail end of February. But also, I would say in general, there was some other stuff that wasn't related. So that's not going to be a factor, and we made a decent amount of progress. So once that netcode gets handled, once we get more focus taken care of on the actual, like laying the foundations for data packs, which we've done. We did an API stream explaining everything about that recently towards the tail end of February. You'll be able to see the return of those very vaunted aspects of the channel, of the just of history, truly aficionados of history will remember Mapcraps and Fraud Nights, and I encourage you guys to get hyped for that. So it's coming. And I don't really have anything else planned specifically right now. We're still kind of in that vein of like vagary, where we're not 100% sure what we're going to be focusing on once the key rewrites and engine features are taken care of. We didn't finish all of those in the month of February, as I alluded to earlier, and we don't really know when we're going to start on some of those and when we're just going to like, what features are we going to go whole hog in C, C++ on, and which ones are we going to wait for the JAI port to be finished before we even start attempting them? That's still an open question. We're still talking about that. And again, we will announce our results, the results of our thinking on that later on. So yeah, that's basically it. On this channel, the first channel, we do have plans to do some more dev streams. Obviously, those will be scattered as they have been, probably a little bit more regular in the month of March, if I had to guess. And again, as soon as we get some sort of funding from something like Indie Fund, well, you'll see an uptick in those just because we'll have more days that we can do that. I want to say besides that, we will obviously be continuing the LPs. I mentioned The Witness. After that, it'll be the Talos Principle. I have no idea what to expect time-wise for any of these titles. We'll see. And I got some recommendations from having a conversation with Reagan Burns over on the No Frauds Club channel for some lower budget indie titles that are a bit harder to maybe find even. Some of them aren't even on Steam. I will check some of those out. And like I mentioned earlier, there will be some games that I play with my brother that happen to be live streamed that won't be publicated after, that'll just be enjoying, us hanging out or whatever. So you can check that out. If people are interested in joining them and they happen to be part of the sort of friend circle, if you're Veek or you're Kian or somebody else who's watching this who I DM regularly, you kind of know who you are. You might feature in those if you're interested. So depending on who has what game. But I think that's pretty much it for now. And I think that's it for video plans as well. That's the only thing that comes to mind right now anyway. Other channel plans. We do have, obviously, plans for the No Frauds Club channel to continue its pace of, like I said, every week or so, we should have at least one of those conversations. I don't know that I'll push myself for more than a week, or if even that is more than just an arbitrary sort of like natural thing that's happened, or whatever. I'm not saying that every week you can expect one, but right now, that's been the pace, and that's the pace for the forthcoming schedule. So we'll see how that goes. I think that's a nice, comfortable amount. It lets me have the necessary sort of wiggle room or whatever, where I can have enough time to schedule the next guest. And lately, it's actually been really nice because I've scheduled a guest like days before the actual next guest is going to come on. So it's like scheduling it more than a week in advance usually. And so that's actually pretty cool. So maybe that continues. If so, you'll see it once a week. Check it out. And then, yeah, the monthly update video I mentioned, and more standard videos, more Frauds Club design pillar videos. Obviously, we didn't get any released in the month of February. Just stay tuned. That's all I'll say. And future plans. Well, broadly speaking, who knows? We're just going to try to be game developers. It's kind of weird to say that out loud. I was registering a business recently. I was doing a lot of really strange and ultimately tedious things, but it was kind of surreal to see No Frauds Club as like a business name or whatever with an IRS document. That was kind of wild. So yeah, check out my LLC. We'll see where that goes, and I'll LLC you later in the next video. Bye.